Red versus Jerry Harker. Jerry to start. Leo versus Rasa Hanimon. Larry to start. Stefan Rao versus Montebio. Stefan to start. Ben Chokran versus Chia Sirian. Ben to start. Mano versus Cholapak. Mano to start. Joanne Craig versus Ron Belkinski. Joanne to start. Marlon versus Alex. Marlon to start. Rex versus Mohan. Mohan to start. Becky versus Vera. Vera to start. Tony versus Babrish. Babrish. Tony. Roland versus Leonora.
Hello everybody.
Roland to start.
Causeway Scrabble Challenge 2016.
Nigel Richards versus Michael.
Here in the background here is Michael Tang, the organiser, reading out the pairings for the Premier Division in round 44. There's a little glitch in the tournament software, but he's done with that now. And for those just joining us, we are about to watch a game between Ayorinde Saidu, a Nigerian player, and David Eldar of Australia. First time Ayorinde has made the top table at this tournament, and he has done so in what is basically a battle for second place with 2 games to go. New Zealand's Nigel Richards has sewn up the tournament. He has a 3-game lead and therefore is unbeatable, and he has been Gibsonized and in fact has a bye in this round. Now we have 3 players on 27 wins apiece. They can all come second. They are the 2 that we're watching, as well as Hashan Lamabarusurya of the United Kingdom. He's playing against Jesse Day on the table below this one. So I think we're all looking forward to watching Saidu here, who we've not seen play at all in this tournament, and seeing what he can do against the very, very strong David Eldar, who despite trying his best could not overcome the beard in the game before lunch in what was an extremely difficult and grueling game. I'm joined in the booth by Canada's Jesse Matthews. Hello, Jesse.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
So we have Ayorinde Saidu of Nigeria. So one person changed on stage at least. A brand new person we have not had yet on board one. Looking forward to watching this play-by-play while I was on lunch. Very briefly, I was playing some speed games with one of the future stars from Pakistan, Muhammad Abdullah Abbasi.
Cool.
We played 2 speed games. We took 1 apiece. He's a very solid player, great heuristics, already very much a threat, and in a few years even more so. I was very proud I got to play handheld with 2 H's and a blank N through an L on the board.
Oh, very nice.
Actually, Ying, I talked to Nigel as well. I was going to bring on that comment to see if he would come in, and I told him there'd be no camera on, that it's just talking, but he said not my thing until I beat a point. So
that's a shame.
I did try. So sorry guys, I did try really, really hard.
By the way, Nigel found cerecloths in 2 seconds. When I wasn't even asking him, I was asking Martin Nyman, and Nigel overheard, and unusually actually said the answer. He normally just doesn't bother.
There you go. So Anthood being played here from David Eldar. Nice.
Isn't that the kind of start he wished he got against Nigel in one of those decisive games? And there's a psychological difference, a big one in this game, because as the player who kind of owns the top table, you're much more comfortable there than the player who visits it. And Saidu would be feeling much more pressure with this change. The whole feel of the game is different, right, when you're on the annotated board.
Yeah.
The lights are different, you're elevated, and you're feeling the pressure, and you're not used to that knowledge that you're under scrutiny in real time. So a little bit of a psychological advantage just from that for David Eldar here. Of course, he's feeling a bit deflated after his losses. I think he feels he played the games well, as indeed he did. Nonetheless, quite hard to get excited about a battle for second place, but then again, it is second place in one of the world's greatest tournaments. Zev asks, who is Jesse Day playing? He is playing with Hashan, one of the only other player in contention for second place. And if you guys are interested, we'll try to give you some running updates from that game.
Chris Leib suggests Jesse Day will finish 3rd if he wins out. I believe that was the best case scenario that I calculated as well. That would be wonderful for us to see. Also worth noting, for Jesse, I'm a little biased because he shares my name, but we also see each other multiple times a year. Collins is not even Jesse's first dictionary. I don't know if he stated a preference, but he does play TWL more often, so to have this stronger result with a book that is not even his default book is impressive.
Yeah, he's a really good player, which I'm sure is not news to anybody. So, Saidu makes the one-tile fish there with QI for 11. Keeping harder on his rack and draws a very healthy E.
Zev, Nigel has a bye because we did have a player drop out yesterday from this tournament, so they figured, well, the most just thing to do, given that Nigel's already won, is just to give him the bye. So that was why I offered him a spot in the studio here to commentate, but he, in his traditional style, he smiled and politely turned it down.
Indeed. And you can see here that, of course, it wasn't exclusively a fish that Saidu made, it was, I think, his only Q spot as well. You can see one of the pitfalls positionally of that move was that having drawn a bingo, he now can't play it.
David Eldar wishing he had an A for Smaragd.
But I see a nice 8 off that O.
Oh yeah, there's the O as well. Joshua, no, David Webb did not drop out. There is another player by the name of Jeremy Koo who dropped out further down. David Webb came back after missing one day of play. Or one game, and then came back. And in fact, this morning, David Webb was one of the first people in the room sitting at his table, so he really wanted to make sure. He told me when I asked him this morning that he had set alarms in 3 different portions of the room, including the alarm clock that the hotel had, and then I think his laptop and his phone as well. So.
That's actually basically what I do on a daily basis. I need to sort of go through an obstacle course in order to keep me out of bed.
So that all worked in combination to make sure he was here early, like very, very early. So Zev has pointed out, yes, there is the 8 from an O.
And Saidu, I think, is looking very hard at plays on row 1, such as Jard, Jarred, which is a nice scoring play, and keeps the top of the board nice and fresh for accepting bingos. Dave, of course, has bingos that are unblockable on the next turn, so he is going to run out to a big lead. Dave only needs to win this one game to lock up second place.
Yep.
For the next game.
So then, out of curiosity to those of you watching, for this round and or the last round, would you like me or Chris to run in and out more consistently to get some scores and updates, or would you rather we check once or twice during the course of this game? Let me know. I will adjust and do as you please.
I'm interested that Saidu thinks this play warrants so much time. To me, it looks like a fairly straightforward choice. I would definitely play Jarred unless I'm overlooking something really nice. Don't think Hadj, Hadj with its weak lead of 2 E's and 2 R's is really in the picture. And I don't really think that F8 Head or similar, leaving the J open, is positionally very strong either. What do you reckon, Jesse?
I was looking at options like Jihad or Hadj.
I hadn't noticed Jihad, I must say. I think I'm still playing Jarred.
Interestingly, Jason Katsaran says Jihad is ahead of both Hadj and Jarred by 6 points. Interesting.
Not the first time I've disagreed with virtually everyone in the chat. Yeah, I mean, that's the price you pay as a player who plays mainly on instinct. Sometimes you just don't get the numbers right instinctively and you get surprised.
To answer the question about Gibsonization and who will be shown Zev, my understanding is that in the event of David being Gibsonized, there would no longer be a need for Nigel to just be the person with the bye. So quite possibly David and Nigel would play again with both Gibsonized. I'm not sure, but we wouldn't feature that as the game on board 1. We would likely show the battle for second place on board 1 in the final round. So the Gibsonization will not affect who we show next round. Interestingly, it looks like Ayorinde has opted for Hajj.
It's been correctly pointed out that David cannot in fact guarantee himself second place with a win here. If Harshan also wins and then were to beat Dave in the following game, then Harshan could get there. Thanks for that, guys. So, Saidu plays Hajj and he has been rewarded for his bravery.
Nigeria's got to be awfully proud with the event here. Of course, Wellington winning the Westpac Championship around this time last year in Perth, Australia, and now Saidu here, a contender for, well, not the very top spot, but potentially for second, which is an excellent show at the toughest tournament in the world.
It certainly is. David Eldar looking strong here though, 130 points to the good with a blank in hand, the second blank no less, and some very useful scoring tiles as he makes his way towards a bingo with that blank. Maybe there's something already. Let us know if you spotted any 8s with David Eldar's rack. So, Saidu choosing between bingos here. He of course needs to keep the board conducive to further bingos to engineer a comeback. And for that reason might consider playing vertically through the final 2 tiles over on the right of the board rather than horizontally hooking artwards, which knocks out, which immobilises a fairly big region for the time being. Although I actually, saying that, I do see a counter argument straight away. So I think either would be reasonable, and spreader is probably a bit of a points advantage, so maybe just go for that in the end.
Spreader, I think, is where I am leaning personally.
Taking his time on these plays. Would have gotten through these racks fairly fast if it were me. In fact, there are no 8s with David Eldar's rack.
Acapulco. I wonder if that's... And to me it looks like a very bad Portuguese set of words put into one. Definition in Ziziva.
I don't think my Ziv will give you one.
Oh, you don't have them loaded? Okay.
Not since only 15. Let me just switch lexicon and then I'll be able to. Yeah. There you go.
A spitfire, a hot-tempered person. I think that actually might be a Portuguese word, because fogo is the word for fire, and, well, caca you can kind of deduce is not usually a friendly word in many languages.
He's such a show-off. Oh look, I know what cacafugo means.
Well, I didn't know it was going to be spitfire, but each word separately, I was just wondering, that's interesting.
Well, I think Saidu's running down the clock needlessly here, to be honest. He's not seeing any new plays. He obviously plays the bingo here, and really taking this long to decide between only 2 reasonable alternatives is unjustified here in the event he takes this game to a close finish, especially. I wonder if it could be an uncertainty issue? Unlikely.
Yeah, it seems unlikely.
I don't know Saidu's game very well, so I'm really unqualified to comment on that kind of issue with him.
I am also. I do know from listening to him a few times that he's very dramatic when describing games, quite animated. So it looks like a challenge has been made.
Dave may be challenging that purely because of the time it took to play it. I do know that Saidu has phenomenally deep word power and very good, very strong anagramming nines and things like that. I remember from previous King's Cups talking to him. I think he solved adhocracy once at lightning speed, which is a really tricky anagram.
That is. Wow, that's actually a word.
Yep. Everyone thinks the answer is coachyard.
Yeah, that makes sense. You're looking for compound words usually.
Yeah.
But ad hoc, jeez.
Adhocracy. Yeah, it's beautiful, isn't it? I should have just dished it out as a question instead of spoiling the answer. I'm a little bit unsure why people are surprised that Dave would challenge. This is a kind of normal-ish challenge in 5-point penalty.
Yes, he's channeling a spear, definitely not anthoods.
Yeah.
And some of the psychology behind that, you can correct me if I'm wrong, since I'm only a recent convert in the last couple of years, is the idea of keeping your opponent honest, letting them know that you will, when in doubt, check something they're playing. Perhaps making them hesitant if they're not sure of the word themselves. Of course, against Nigel, it's pointless, so he never does that with Nigel, but you can argue for its validity in many other settings.
I think people maybe underestimate how fragile you can feel your word knowledge is in this kind of tournament context. Yeah. David Eldar is not a player who memorizes these bingos in complete lockdown style, solidifying them with absolute 100% never miss certainty in his long-term memory. He does study these, but he doesn't study them that often. He studies them a little bit irregularly. And things like agent nouns, like spira, they don't always stick with him. And so, it's a completely natural challenge for him to have made.
Mm-hmm.
Dave also wants to be totally sure that it takes MS. But maybe he doesn't trust Saidu that much.
True. Well, it's not an adjective, he knows that for sure. It's valid, so.
Dave looking for bingo here. He said he was anxious he'd missed a couple in the previous games we were watching. Things like that AAENNS blank rack against Nigel. He was spending quite a lot of time making sure he didn't have one.
Josh argues for oaf at C3. Yeah, it's not bad, although the CF combo, not the best. So I probably wouldn't do it.
What would you do?
I haven't decided that yet. Yeah, score is obviously a fair bit. Yeah, calf and calf looks a little bit better to me. I think you have to...
Alright, that's a word now. Had forgotten.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With other vowels, maybe keeping CF is okay, but not with those ones.
See him burn the blank again with L8 Fados.
I don't think he'll be anxious to burn a blank in this particular context. But yeah, that one from the last game was quite something. We won't spoil it for you if any of you are here watching that didn't watch the last round. That was also, in a different way, a treat. I feel with oaf, when you leave C, F, and A and blank in your rack, you do a blank, but I think you can have a lot more higher scoring consonants and even lower scoring ones that can make the rack go very badly, as Joshua is mentioning now.
I'm not sure if anyone's noted that the K column accepts face bingos, which might be a slight consideration.
Yeah. I think holding on to oaf, oh yeah, blank left over, I think that would bingo more often. Joel looks like he has something to say. We'll wait to see a bit of expansion on that comment.
Having looked at those two plays, Calf and Oaf, for a little while, I honestly don't know which one I think is better. At any rate, we've got something on the board.
A fear.
Lovely play.
That is another way of dealing with the problem.
And that's quality from David Eldar. Not as blocky in the south as it looks at first. That's D, E and S as back hooks. But I think everyone's a fan of that one from Dave, and he has been rewarded with a very nice rack maturation.
Corone goes alongside the play he just made as one option. I haven't looked over at the left column on the H yet, but definitely sevens.
The Iwi straight away from Saidu looks a solid effort. Can't argue with that one.
No. And Eldar is looking to jump ahead to a 100+ point lead.
Dave's rack not as bingo-y with the floaters as it looks like it might be at first. Actually, nothing at all with an E, which otherwise he might well have been drawn to.
It is strangely reminiscent of the cone nose play that he made in a previous game, just with an R instead of an S.
Wonder if he's tempted by force here. I'd say probably not.
Yeah, Joel, that's the one I'm advocating for as well at L2. I thought I said that like 4 minutes ago.
Yeah, I think you did.
I guess they didn't hear.
Or they're not listening.
I guess, yeah. We might as well stop talking.
Yeah.
You know what, on that note, I'm going to take a walk around the room to see what's happening.
Yeah, no worries. I was going to suggest if you wanted to play some speed games while this one.
We could, clearly, because no one's listening anyway. I'll be right back.
Why don't you love us, guys? So Dave taking his time here. I have no doubt that that's about systematically working his way over from the left of the board. Looking at the H, which actually only makes 8s with a blank as the S, neither of which plays. The A is similar, makes things like coronate, but nothing that will fit. And then the E is going to come up with nothing for him as well once he finishes looking there. And he may well find himself in the end making a play that he noticed in 1 second of clock time. But it's the kind of use of time that you can't really argue with. You don't want to overlook something good on a play like this, which could well be the one that locks up the game if he draws okay on the next turn. Tiles on the board here. I suspect it's going to be Coronet as predicted by Jesse and the chat independently. That non-core it is instead, giving away perhaps a little bit less in terms of counterplay to Saidu. And I'm told scoring an extra point as well. Jesse appears to have used his walk around the room to collect some dessert. I hope you've got some results too.
I did in fact go to raid the dessert table one last time on both of our behalves. So
Oh,
you
that's
can
very
have some
kind,
as well.
thank you.
I could not get anything specific. All the score sheets are either obscure or messy, but Esther's game is just about complete. Meanwhile, Jesse Day and Harshen, they are maybe just over a third of the way through their match.
Wow, that's quite different rates. What was the one that you said was almost complete, sorry?
Esther's.
Oh, Esther else there. Oh.
I see non-core has gone down, which I saw noted before I left, scored slightly more.
Just looking at the standings, it is such a brutal tournament. Only one player is going to get to 30 wins out of 45 games. Only one player gets a 2/3 winning record in this tournament. No prizes for guessing which one. And I guess Saidu is a little bit to think about here. He kind of wants to bingo the next turn, but it's not so easy to keep leaves that are conducive to that. As in the ones he wants to keep, primarily EIPS, the same thing he capped last time. You can play things like in-buy to string the triple open with 140%, 140 point deficit. It's INBYE. What are his other options? I don't really see a standard equity line other than ones that keep the B instead of the P, which is substantially worse in this sort of position for him. I see biopsy. Oh, and I think I found it a second before he played it.
Nice play.
It is a nice play, but it's not a winning play. You know, it creates no-bingo lines and blocks several. And I don't know, perhaps it's only a default best play, in that there wasn't really anything that he could do that was exactly what he wanted. I think in-buy might have tempted me a bit. Dave does a straightforward bit of rack balancing there with the tout.
And of course, obstruction of the O and the N, particularly, or the N, but not the C.
That biopsy play told Dave that he was holding the case S, making tout entirely risk-free. and no love for Saidu in that pickup. You know, he's made up a little bit of ground on the scoreboard, but really he's in a worse position than he was before because there are 8 more tiles on the board. He has a worse rack, and positionally, you know, the board's way less accepting of a comeback. So he's lost out on that exchange, and that's why I question biopsy as a move.
I would never play this, but to maintain with, you know, going to the Hail Mary, I see Fever on the right side of the board and take out the easy play for Eldar's S, but I don't
Cool,
think
you
I
must know a lot of words with I-O-O-U in it. Oh, hello. Looks like it's coming down.
Oh my god, look at me.
You have had that telepathy this week. You've been way better than me. But at calling those unexpected plays.
I think some of it's just, well, you say that you kind of naturally on some positions and just go for the feel of the board or whatever, but sometimes I just feel like, okay, well, Fever does open the board nicely, just doesn't give him anything to work with there.
Jason says, I don't think we can rag on Saidu for being in terrible shape after drawing YI and UV consecutively, and that is
UI.
fair enough. I accept your criticism, JKV. Thanks for following us. Saidu can of course play that EUOI on row 13 under a fear, which opens up nicely.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the play I'd be looking at next turn.
From David Eldar's perspective, he doesn't have much of a clue that Saidu is sitting on complete junk.
Yeah.
He's about average based on Eldar's point of view.
I guess he can just run through some tiles by playing Telnet for face value or whatever. But maybe he thinks something like Telnets at C7 is better to immobilize that region of the board. So he has to think about the right, or no, well, there may well be something else on. Or an equity play to balance for his own bingo with the board the way it is also very plausible. I hadn't quite realised that Saidu was only 80 points behind. I thought he was more behind. So maybe Biopsy and Fever were two very good plays. And I just sort of really missed their good points in commentary.
So, Joel Sherman suggests voice through the C and not board to set up his own R. Yeah, that certainly is a very sensible play. I'm not defending Fever as the best play for those of you who are saying this is why you don't do Fever, that what he got was bad. I'm not arguing that. It certainly wasn't an ideal keep. I was just saying he might consider it because of what it does for the board. Sadly, it left him with nothing, and he still has nothing.
David Eldar, what a cowboy. Another opening for the case S, obviously telegraphing it. Towton didn't necessarily telegraph it.
That definitely does.
And that's a pretty cool positional play, actually.
So there goes Uoi from Saidu to the Q.
And with the Z that Dave's drawn, he can, if he chooses, knock out the whole south part of the board for bingos with Zells.
Yeah, I'm seeing Joshua saying none to play around or just play Zells. So I was just checking the spreads to make sure that wasn't a factor. It's definitely not, so I would be inclined to agree. Might as well just take some points, get closer to the end of the game, keep your lead.
He is entering slightly dangerous waters if he doesn't score some points this turn. So it has just been chipping away over at the lead over the last few plays. They've got 14 followed by 5. Saidu hasn't made much progress with his rack, but he has on the scoreboard. David Eldar. And he knocks out the western board of the board instead with LEZ again, trying to draw a bingo with the case S. And well, that's a Nigel style play, using the S and the Z on separate turns rather than spending both at once. And it looks like he will reap the rewards here with tenoners, entrons, and tanas available horizontally in the south. So this one should be done and dusted now. With that pick up for Dave, there ain't no coming back from that. I might go and have a look at board 2, the board that's in effect board 2.
Sounds good.
See if I have more luck than Jesse at reading score sheets.
There goes Tunners and Elts. Nail in the coffin here. As Saidu continues to struggle. Coming back is Chris May, perhaps with news I could not obtain on my previous trip.
Yeah, well, I'm reasonably sure that the Jesse Day Harshan game is a blowout. It's a 200-point margin for somebody, and based on how Jesse arranges his score sheet, I'm reasonably sure that it's Jesse.
Okay.
So I think that will knock Harshan out of the contention for second.
And that's actually really interesting, because David with this win will be in second at 28, and then Jesse will be the leader of the 27s in third, so he'll be playing Eldar straight up. No, I think Eldar will still be second.
Eldar will be Gibsonized himself, right?
By spread, yeah. He would only be one game up, but there's no way Jesse could win.
Yeah. Which means we'd be in for a third place playoff between Jesse and Saidu, most likely.
Or actually, hang on.
And that would be quite cool.
Wait, so Jesse's winning by how much?
I think 200.
So he would be at just about plus 1100. Oh yeah, but Eldar will also gain spread this time. So I was going to say, if it was within 300, at least according to Tish, then in theory you're supposed to play each other. But
don't quite think we'll see that. So I think most likely, guys, is a Jesse Day Ayorinde Saidu playoff for third place in one game of Causeway Challenge 2016. Or I guess we could watch another Richards Eldar clash on the Gibsonized board.
Yeah, it really depends.
Both players playing for nothing whatsoever. Could be entertaining.
We'll ask Michael what to do. Joel asks if I can describe the desserts I've scarfed. Let's see. There is Kuih, or Kuih, I don't know how to pronounce it properly, but
I think it's Kuih.
They spell it Kuih on the sheet there, but in Scrabble it works as Kueh as far as I remember.
That's correct.
The ones in front of me, besides the kue, whatever, there's also little tiny pieces of brownie. It looks like cake. It's kind of a strawberry flavor. There is a pistachio flavored light fluffy cake.
Fluffy cake.
Yes, and then there is how do I even describe this one? It's red, some kind of red-based cake with
It's almost like a red velvet cake.
Yeah, red velvet cake with
of,
buttercream ice cream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty compelling cake chat as this game reaches its conclusion. I think Saidu has a bingo.
There
I don't know
are
if he's going to play it.
There are only 5 pieces of dessert on my rack. I have underdrawn. I may have to go and get several more.
Lots of interest in the Jesse Saidu potential matchup. We will, of course, show a live game rather than a Gibsonized game.
I hope. We will talk to Michael about it.
Yeah.
We'll put in our word for it.
I'm sure Michael will agree. So basically, we'll get you whatever the most live game is in the tournament on the feature table for the final round, so stick with us for that. Good comeback from Jesse Day after losing every single game in the morning session of day 4. Of course, he was a leader early on in the tournament, played Nigel Richards. He's played him at least 9 times, which is tough work for anybody. Jesse's handed Nigel 4 defeats in this tournament, pretty impressive. So he had a losing streak of 7 on the bounce, same as in the US Nationals.
Yep.
But this tournament is so long that he came right back. Even after losing 7 in a row, he was at 12th. He was first going into that streak.
Beating Goman, he got up to 9th, lost 2 more, and then he has won 6 straight since.
Man, he won 1 out of 10 games in one trot and was only down to 16th place in the field. He's such a good player, Jesse Day. He has played a number of quite creative phonies in this tournament, I have to add.
Which is something we are used to. We all know, and especially in Double Challenge America, that is a significant factor. Still is here, of course, since they're being accepted, but especially in Double Challenge where you risk losing your turn.
Yeah. So bag empty now. Saidu plays metalled and draws EG, U, X, and Dave normally plays a hard end game no matter what. So let's see if he does so again here. He might have a little bit to think about. This would be an interesting position if the scores were close.
Yeah, Zev, it is too bad that he did lose a few of those games that were certainly winnable, but naturally the pairings would change as a result of that, those wins versus losses. So there's a whole bunch of hypotheticals. Hard to say how he would have done. But yeah, it is too bad that those were lost. As for why show a meaningless game, for those who are trying to win the tournament, technically any game is a meaningless game after someone has won the title already, so I would say it's of subjective opinion as to which one is meaningless, but it's a fair question.
Yeah, I'm not sure that Dave can go out first here. UV ain't too great in case in an end game.
Domino 14. maybe that's Cesar, but then I saw Cesar logged in yesterday, so I'm not sure. Actually, no, that is Cesar, because Cesar's one of his old Yahoo screen names was the 14th Domino, so I think that is him. To answer your question, it is Nigel, of course, in first. David, with this win, will be in second solidly. Jesse is going to leapfrog into third, assuming that he is the one winning that.
Yeah, I think I read that right.
And then below will be, of course, Saidu as one of the two players, and I think Saidu will be in fourth after this game.
I believe
is it
so.
Esther who's possibly picked after that one?
She lost to Ayorinde Richards.
So then maybe Alistair's in fifth.
That looks right.
Okay, so Alistair will be in fifth. Oh, and there's Harshan as well. I forgot to factor Harshan into the equation. Josh, I'm not sure what you're getting at there. That is correct, and that is what I said.
So this, in all honesty, wasn't the most exciting of games that we've seen in the tournament, but there were a few talking points. I thought that Saidu's one-tile play of QI was worth a bit more attention than we were able to give it. Having said that, wasn't too clear to me, just on a quick look at the board, what his other good options were on Q, A, I, D or similar in the same spot. Hudge was questioned both by us and in the chat, as he had other options and took a while on that play. Biopsy I thought was a question mark positionally, although it was defended by the chat. And Fever was a very, very interesting move, keeping the horrendous IOOU back to see if he could work his way back into that game. As for Dave, he played around a bit with that case S. TOWT was fairly straightforward because it was a good bit of rack management. But his ELT play maybe just gave a little bit too much away in terms of trying to control Saidu's side of things rather than playing for his own. And Saidu was chipping away a little bit ominously at his lead for a few turns there before Dave fortuitously pulled the O out of the bag and was able to come back with tonners. Cementing win.
Yeah, Zeb, it is surprising to see players as strong as Goman and Dave Weekend not doing so well. Jesse Day alone beat Goman, I believe, 4 times this tournament.
Beating Goman and Nigel 4 times each.
I talked to Jesse today, and he mentioned that his only consistent wins this tournament were against ties. He did not lose to a tie player once, he told me, throughout the tournament.
Pretty cool.
Little tidbit there for you. And then Dave Weekend, of course, we know how strong he is. Just he had a really rough start with a tie and a very close loss. Went on a 6-game losing streak about midway through, and then another 6-game losing streak very recently before winning 2 and then losing 1.
And Dave Wigan lost a lot of close games early on in the tournament. Lost in the first game by 2 points, followed up with a tie. So only 0.5 points to show for the first 2 games, despite probably having winning chances in both of them. Then he also lost to Goman by 10 points early on, lost a 20-point game to Mark, and then another 8-point game to Mark. So Dave Wigan just probably hasn't had the rub of the green towards the end in a lot of his games. We could well have seen him on the top table if just 1 or 2 of those had turned in his favour.
Yeah.
Did get one massive 660-point game against Nigel Richards, winning that by 330 points. I wonder what happened there. Currently in a game with Peter Armstrong is Dave Wiegand.
Both from the Portland area. They've travelled halfway around the world just to play each other.
Dave's decided that Vin is his best end game. I haven't really been paying attention, but I assume that was to he found that Saidu's best line involved playing there first. Yeah.
And hello to the Saint from the Bay Area in United States. Yeah, it's a little tough tournament for the Thais here for sure. They had a bit of a struggle. Oh, he transposed.
Transposed 2 tiles. As you saw in the real-time cam, it was down to 0 seconds. Lucky that wasn't a tournament deciding move. So Saidu outplays with EX. And in some, a reasonably unproblematic win for David Eldar there. He'll certainly wish that he had that run against Nigel Richards rather than now the tournament is beyond his reach.
They're shaking hands and going into square the tiles pretty quickly, it looks like, because neither really feel like that one's worth talking much about. You can't blame them. You know, it's near the end of a huge event and they're no longer playing for first, so...
Indeed. And this is probably one of the last finishing games in Premier due to the time taken by both players. So
probably being rushed. Yeah.
We expect a resumption fairly soon as it's been redrawn in the Premier Division for the final round. We think that's most likely to be Jesse Day versus Ayorinde Saidu in a third place playoff, but we will now go off the air and sort out all of the standings and the featured game for you. So stick around for the final game of Causeway Scrabble Challenge 2016.